Hello everyone, it's Paola and welcome to a new video. Happy 2021 by the way. This is the first video that I'm recording, that I'm editing, that I'm posting in 2021 and that's very exciting. Today I am tier ranking every single book that I read in 2020. For reference, I read 70 books and I am going to go from the first book that I read to the last book that I read, so that way I can leave every single wrap-up that I did, every single wrap-up, I think I did like 5, that I did, as well as my post on the last wrap-up of 2020 that I left on my blog. That's just so that this video is not obnoxiously long. Also, I saw Sarah Without an H do this with an interesting ranking system, which was like vines, and also Kayla from Books and Lala did it, but for her most disappointing reads, I believe, and it was also very fun. So I decided to do the same thing, not just give them the tier ranking like God tier, good tier, etc, etc. Instead, I am giving you the tier rankings in the way that I thought the Snatch Game of Love during RuPaul's Drag Race All-Star Season 5. So the first tier ranking here is Alexis's Walter and Shay's Flavor Flav. That is the tier for superb books. Like these are books that I believe everyone else should read, that I highly recommend, and that also left a big impact in my heart. Next we have Jujube's Eartha Kitt, which are the good books, because that performance by Jujubee for Eartha Kitt was my favorite performance actually of anyone who has ever done an Eartha Kitt performance. These are books that are really good, that just missed a little bit to be on par with Alexis's Walter and Shay's Flavor. Then we have Blair's Ellen, and those are the okay books, you know, the kind of books that you read and are like, okay, that happened, that's fine. Then we have Crackers Gaga, and those are the books that are meh/disappointing, because I don't know about you or if you watch RuPaul's Drag Race at all, but whenever I see Miss Cracker, I expect to laugh and just have a great time, but I was so bored with her performance of Lady Gaga during the Snatch Game of Love, and I think that's a good descriptor for how I felt about some of the books that I read. And finally we have India's Jeffrey. Those are the bad books. So yeah, let's just get started. The first book that I finished in 2020 was Flashed by Zoe Castile, and that book was okay. Yeah, I think it was fine. The wrap-ups will be linked down below so that I don't end up rambling like the first time I filmed this video. Next, I read Fuck I'm in My 20s by Emma Koenig. I think it was good. Like, it was a good, relatable thing, on par with Jujubee's Eartha. Next up, we got the Lying Game series by Sarah Shepard. I'm not going to be tier ranking every single book in the series, just the one as representative of the whole series. I'm in between Crackers Gaga and India's Jeffrey because I was really enjoying it, but then it was just like a plane crash. But the things that this book did bad were really bad, so I don't know. So I'm gonna put it with Crackers Gaga, because yeah, those books looked promising. Just, oh god. Then I read The Worst Best Man by Mia Sosa. Hell to the no. I hated that book with a passion. Definitely on par with India's performance of Jeffree Star. Rebel by Beverly Jenkins. I loved this book. It was so effing good. Absolutely on par with Alexis's Walter and Shay's Flavor Flav. Then we have On the Come Up by Angie Thomas, which is also amazing, show-stopping, spectacular, fantastic, amazing. I loved it with my whole heart. Tiny Pretty Things and Shiny Broken Pieces by Sona Cheripotra and Daniel Clayton. This is also just the one book that I'm ranking for the rest of the duology. Amazing, show-stopping, spectacular. That book messed me up in the best kind of way. It's just great. Don't judge it by how terrible the show was. Habla Maria by Bernardo Fernandez. Absolutely not. I want to forget that I ever read this book. Definitely India Ferris, Jeffree Star kind of bad. Then we have Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. This is an amazing book. It was so good. Definitely on par with Alexis's Walter and Shay's Flavor. Ghost Girl in the Corner by Daniel Jose Older. This is a novella, part of the Shadow Shaper Cipher series. And I really enjoyed it. I wouldn't say it was particularly superb, but I thought it was really enjoyable. Then we have SHADOWHOUSE Fall and Shadow Shaper Legacy, also by Daniel Jose Older. And these books were okay. Like, I don't think my judgment of them is fair because I read them really quickly, but it's just the way I feel about them. 5 Midnights by Anne Davila Cardinal. No. Just no. Why are white Latinx still allowed to discuss race in their books in a way that's just like, meh, I don't look like the stereotypical Latinx person. I'm so oppressed. Like, be quiet. Dark and Deepest Red by Anna Marie McLemore. This book blew my goddamn mind. It was so good. Just perfection. Muse Squad by Chantel Acevedo. This book shook me to my core. It was so fun and wholesome. Do I think it's as great as Alexis's performance of Walter and Shay's performance of Flavor? No. Blaze Wrath Games by Amparo Ortiz, another fantastic book. This just, I really enjoyed how fun it was to read. It was as fun as Jujubee's performance of Eartha Kitt. There's for the Night by Katie Robert. Contains a polyamorous relationship, MFM. So good, really smutty, not as great as Alexis's Walter and Shay's Flavor, but definitely really good. Guarding Temptation by Talia Hibbert. This book blew my effing mind. I was not expecting to love it as much as I did. Definitely on par with the rest of the superb books tier. The Distance Between Us by Reina Grande. This is a book that I struggle to this day to talk about, but it's a really well written book. The Complete Poetry of Edgar Allan Poe. And it was a nice experience. Thank you to the people on YouTube who uploaded their readings of the poems, because that's how I consumed the book, and otherwise I don't think I would think as highly. Death Threat and the Subtweet by Vivek Shreya. Two very different books. One of them is the graphic memoir version of when the author was getting hate mail, and the other one is about two friends, and I really enjoyed both of them. Death Threat is super disturbing, big trigger warning for transphobia and death threats, and the other one is, I don't know how to explain it, but it's a great exploration of friendships, especially adult friendships. The Bright Test by Helen Huang. This is another book that I don't know if I want to put it in the Crackers, Gaga, Meh, Disappointing tier, or in the India Faris Jeffree Star bad tier, because it is a bad book, but I was also really hoping to get something amazing, and it just wasn't. For my peace of mind, I think I'm gonna have to put it in Crackers, Gaga, Meh, Disappointing. A Very Large Expanse of Sea by Tahir Mafi. Jesus Christ, this book lives in my mind rent-free, amazing, show-stopping, spectacular, great YA romance. Definitely on par with Alexis's Walter and Shay's Flavor Flav. Kim Ripper by Sarah Graylee. This was just a really fun sapphic story about a girl and her Soul Reaper girlfriend. It was good. It was really good. Who Do You Serve, Who Do You Protect by Maya Shenwar et al. This is a non-fiction book and I love it. It's very accessible, really informative as you would expect. Girl Gone Viral by Alicia Rai. Oh my goodness. This book was so bad. I did not enjoy it at all. Private Lessons by Cynthia Salese. I loved this book. It is a Me Too book, so warning for statutory rape. It is a very graphic scene also, but it's a very necessary book. Finding Joy by Adriana Herrera. Oh my goodness, this was my first read by Adriana Herrera and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I Never Look Back by Lilian Rivera. Another amazing, show-stopping, spectacular book. I do not understand how people do retellings this well. It's amazing. Ever After by Olivia Buick. I don't even know what this book was. It was just a book that I read and I didn't really enjoy it. I wasn't really expecting to love it, so it's not a disappointing book. But also, it just didn't do anything for me. Let's just put it in the okay tier. I think that's fair. The Photographer of Madhausen by Salva Rubio. This was a really good graphic novel. It should be better at telling you where it's fiction and where it's real life, but I enjoyed it well enough. You Had Me at Hola by Alexis Daria. I really liked this book. I thought it was solid adult romance. Love from A to C by S.K. Ali. Jesus, another book that I just adored. Again, I love teenagers falling in love in books. I think it's just a very wholesome, very raw experience. And this book was mind-blowing. That Could Be Enough by Alyssa Cole. This was so good, fun, much more fun than I could have ever anticipated. It's just sweet, steamy. I love it. I love it so much. There are things that I can't tell you by Dako Mofu. This was angsty. This book was really angsty, but the payoff was also amazing. Miss Meteor by Anna Marie McLemore and Taylor K. Mejia. It's just an amazing book about friendship and love and family, and it's so good. So good. Read it if you haven't already. It is an amazing book. A Duke to Remember by a lot of different authors. This was a really good book. I enjoyed it. I read it really quickly, and I had a good time. Do I think it's as great as Alexis's performance of Walter and Shay's performance of Flavor Flav? Not really, but I still highly recommend it. Half Truths and Twisted Circles by Claire Contreras. These books are really dramatic. The university set Gossip Girl, but with a telenovela twist. Those books are really good. Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. This book didn't blow my mind as much as I was expecting it to, but I still really enjoyed it. I still had a great time, and I still felt like I needed to read it during daytime, otherwise I was gonna get creeped the hell out of myself. The Summer of Everything by Julian Winters. This book spoke to me in ways that I was not expecting it to. It was so relatable, so good to read at the time that I read it. Charming as a Verb by Ben Philippe. This book was so funny and I enjoyed the hell out of it. It was just a treat to read. Scoring the Baby's Player by Naima Simone. This was a good book. I just wish it didn't go so hard with the I'm getting my man card removed kind of comments. I just thought those were really unnecessary and added nothing to the character or the story. Furia by Shamile Sayed Mendez. This book was so great, and it deals with domestic abuse and domestic violence and the Ni Una Menos movement in Latin America, specifically in Argentina. I highly recommend it. I think this book is one of a kind, and I loved it. It Would Be Night in Caracas by Karina Sainz Borgo. It was a book that I read, and it was fine. It was fine. Fire on the Ice by Tamsin Parker. I had never read a sports romance, and I am so glad that this was my first one because it was sapphic, it was smutty, it hit every point that I wanted it to hit without me even knowing that was what I wanted. This book was just so good. Island Affair by Priscila Oliveras. I read this one really fast, and I didn't really enjoy it as much as I thought I would, so I don't know if it would be fair for me to rank it in the okay tier, but that's where I'm gonna put it. The Dragon Warrior Duology by Katie Zhao. This book took me on such a ride. This book was just the perfect mix between hilarious and sad. So yeah, read it. It's a fantastic duology. The Babysitter by Jack Harben. This was just a fun book. Really quick, really easy to read, and Jack Harben also nailed the protagonist's feelings, everything that he felt I was feeling too. Do I think it's on par with everything else that I've ranked with Alexis's Walter and Shay's Flavor Flav? Not really, but I still Highly, highly, highly recommend this book. Here to Stay by Adriana Herrera, another amazing book. This was so good. It wasn't really hate to love, but it was a nice dislike to love. Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas, another great book. I highly recommend it. I just don't think it talked about colonialism as much as it should, and I just think that if you are writing a book about pre-colonial practices and you yourself are not an indigenous person, I think that the least you could do was discuss more what colonialism did to those practices and why they are practiced the way they are now, at least the way that they are practiced in Cemetery Boys. Bear With Me by Lucy Eden. This was fun. This was a fun shifter romance, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. I don't think it is as great as Alexis's performance of Walter or as great as Shay's performance of Flavor Flav, but I still highly recommend this one. Those Who Pray by Jennifer Moffett. It blew my effing mind. It's a 5-star book. Definitely read it if you're into cult fiction. It was amazing. Thorn of the Night Blossoms by J.C. Kang. This was a good novella, really accessible, high fantasy, great introduction to the world. Really want to read the rest of the series. Do I think it's as great as Alexis's Walter and Shay's Flavor Flav? No. Do I still really recommend it? Yes. Ghost Squad by Claribel A. Ortega. It's on Spotify, so I listened to it in real time, which is an experience, and it was a really good experience. I find middle grade really wholesome. Please Pick Me by Reina Regina. This is a collection of poems, and they're really great poems. They're all about self-love and knowing what you deserve. And I really hope it makes the rounds on more readers because it's a very valuable poetry collection. Heartbeat Braves by Pamela Sanderson. This is a great romance book. The scene changes in this book in particular were a bit jarring, but it was an amazing book. I really recommend it. 8 by Real C. Adams. This was definitely a superb tier, on par with Alexis's Walter and Shay's Flavor kind of novelette. Short, smutty, open-ended, amazing. A Masked Murder by Nicole Rice. This was a really intense, really fast book. I really enjoyed it. I don't think it's on par with everything else that I've ranked in the superb rank, but I still think it's a really good book. Solstice Dream by Alexis Daria. This is a short story. I think it's like 35 pages or something, and it's good. You know, it accomplishes what it's meant to accomplish, which is like paranormal, witchy romance. And finally we have The Longest Night by E.E. Ottoman. This is a historical romance featuring 2 trans men who have been pen pals for a really long time, but they haven't met, and it's really sweet, really cozy. I really enjoyed it. I would say it's on par with Jujubee's performance of Eartha Kitt. And there we have it, all 70 books tier ranked based on who did best and who did worst in RuPaul's Drag Race All-Star Season 5, Snatch Game of Love. That is a mouthful, and I've also been speaking for way longer than I was expecting to. But thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below what is the best book that you read in 2020 and what was the worst book that you read in 2020. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already and you'd like to, go ahead and hit subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!